Namaste. When the mother was asked to speak about her life, she spoke in just about three or four short sentences. She was asked about reminiscences. She had come to India, and she writes, the reminiscences will be short. I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. I remained in India to live with Sri Aurobindo. When he left his body, I continued to live here in order to do his work, which is by serving the truth and enlightening mankind, to hasten the rule of the divine's love upon earth. She summarized the whole life. And now, even if we look at her outer life, it is no ordinary or mean achievement. She is an accomplished artist, a painter par excellence, some of her paintings being displayed in the Louvre. Very few people know that she has released into this world a new form of music, a form we can call it. It's a music which will inspire generations to come. Some call it Western, some call it Eastern, some say it doesn't fall into any category. And yet, if you listen to her music, it goes deep down and touches the very core of her being. And it is like, say, just let it go into this earth. She has released new idea forces in this world. If you just read what she has spoken, there was a group she had formed in France called the New Idea. And in that, the kind of discussions which she has had when she reveals truths about, for instance, the power of word, what is Om, how these gods would come before her, the secret Vedantic thought in one small example she has completely summarized. And not only this, she is an accomplished yogini, yogeshwari, if we can use the word. Before coming to India, she writes that I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. What about before coming to India? Sri Aurobindo says she was an adept in the Buddhist yoga. She gives some very interesting examples of that. She is sitting in a theater and someone is sitting behind, and the very beautiful performance was to take place, and the person who was sitting behind found it little inconvenient because he wanted to see and couldn't see. So she just puts herself down so that he can see. And though she couldn't see a performance which she has gone there, and something very beautiful, and she says, yet she experienced such a delight. And she doesn't use her own, that I experienced. Very seldom you'll find. Many of the mother stories are like as if in third person. She experienced a delight. She was an adept in Buddhist yoga. She had accomplished, realized the yoga of the Gita. All that she was told was, take Krishna to be the immanent divine. And it was done. And she says, I was like a fire trailing. If somebody told me that I have to do it, I had to just do it. At the age of 18, she had realized the contact with the divine presence within. As an accomplice, this is the Vedantic part. Raj Yoga, she had accomplished it without reading a book. When somebody gave her the book by Swami Vivekananda on the Raj Yoga, she was very happy to read that, somebody has written something, described what I have experienced. As a Tantric Siddha Yogini, she could not only the entire Kundalini awakening, she talks about it very casually. She says, yes, people say if you do this pranayam, this happens. If you do this, you die. Both Sri Aurobindo and myself had done it, but we are still alive. So casually, there are special processes. Spontaneously, she would do mudras, which are rare mudras even to the Tantric Siddhs. She could take out not 7 sheaths. We are told that there is only up till 3 sheaths you can take out. Other sheaths, the 5 sheaths, and you'll read a lot about it. The Anandamay and the Vijnanamay Kosh, it's not individualized. But she could take out 12 sheaths, 12 levels, not 7, the classical Tantric yoga. And all this she could do so naturally. She could leave her body completely and actually experienced death while living. Even the cord is cut. And someone who has accomplished all these things. And all this, mind you, not by withdrawing from the world, going into the Himalayas, taking some special initiation. 1 year in Algeria, which she later on went for occultism. But even then, she was engaged with life. And then in Paris, the city where she says it's built with so much desires, she could feel its atmosphere was not very good those days. And yet, when you ask her, tell us about your life, and this continues. Imagine at 91, someone starts a new city. I can't imagine. It's so inspiring that she starts a city called the City of Dawn, Auroville, at 91. When even yogis say now it's time to withdraw, whenever the divine wants, I will withdraw. She's initiating a new city, and it's not just initiating, it means she takes the full charge of everything, material, spiritual, psychological, of all the types of humanity which comes here. That divine mother, when she is asked, tell us about your life, she says, I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. And we all know that Sri Aurobindo, when she was 9 to 13 years of age, she would see so many mystics, so many yogis, great beings would come to her, and one of them, with whom she formed a persistent relation, and she used to call him Krishna, was none other than Sri Aurobindo, whom she had seen in her vision. It's a long story. If you read the story of the mother, it's like not just a fairy tale. All the stories, and I can vouchsafe for it, having read Puranas and all the mystic literature, Ramayana, Mahabharata, you will find them pale into insignificance. And they're all real life stories with real evidence, real things. It's a whole Mahabharata of Mahabharata. And when she is asked to speak about herself, she says, I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. Who can say this except for someone who is full of divine humility? All her life, there was a person who was uncouth, whom she would give special attention. And someone asked her, why are you giving so much special attention to him? She says, when I came to Pondicherry, then I asked someone, where does Sri Aurobindo live? He was the person who pointed out to the house. She showed us how to really approach the yoga, the master, by her personal example, her countless letters. If you just take the correspondence of the mother and her conversations, they are such a treatise in unparalleled yogic literature. Or if you take her book like Prayers and Meditation, I can say without exaggeration that really they are at par with Savitri. She has never said like that, but it is like that. The effect it has on your consciousness. After all, Savitri is to bring us in contact with the consciousness of the mother. Here she is coming as the mother of love, as the mother of wisdom, as the mother of delight. And she is doing the sadhana for earth. Everything is there. And that Prayers and Meditations, we have, at least coming from India, I was exposed to Bhakti Sutras of Narad, Chandil's Bhakti Sutra, which are regarded as peaks. You read the mother's prayers and meditation, and you'll wonder, my God, this is bhakti. When you read her deliberations, when she pours knowledge, you will feel this is wisdom. And this wisdom is not just, you realize the self, this path. Detailed wisdom. Everything she had a truth to reveal. From girls asking her, during our period, should we play sports or not? To, I am having this food, should I have this or not? To the most profound spiritual practices. And she would reveal the secret truth within it. Or like Mahakali, when she has come, impatient to change an age, working upon matter in a detailed way like Mahasaraswati. Or as Mother Mahalakshmi, a wonderful mother of numberless souls. Everybody, it's amazing. If you look at the ashram, the Auroville, and all over the world, this yoga is so different, very beautifully. There are some fundamental principles, but there is no common practice. And there is no way you can recognize, either by dress or anything, vermilion stain or this or that mark that you. There is no cult here. And yet, all people diverse. And if you ask them that, what binds you together? Mother. What a love it must be. I don't want to say must have been, because it still is. Plunged into everything for the sake of the divine and his work to hasten the rule of divine love upon earth. And this mother, this wonderful divine mother coming from those heights, becomes like a child, plays with children, Ringa Ringa Roses, teaches them how to play a role, be Radha in Radha's dance, everything intimately involved with the life of her children, giving herself endlessly. Someone whose day starts at 4 in the morning and doesn't end at 2 in the night, but 1 hour, and during that time she would say, actually it's a time given to me when I can work, go out of my body, and there are countless calls from various sides. She was not only for some people in the ashram, she would continue to pour her love, do a thing here, there, countless examples, paucity of time. We can't go into that, but yes, it's everywhere for those who want to see. And then, towards the last bit, what we call as the last act, her birth is a sacrifice, it's a limitation. She brings a new possibility in this earth. But if she has to bring a new possibility, she has to enter into terms of this earth, ignorance, falsehood. So she enters into there, because we cannot ascend there to her home. So she comes, becomes like us. As Sri Aurobindo says, the divine puts on an appearance of humanity, but he continues to be the divine. She put on an appearance, came like us. Though even in birth one can see a symbol of and a sign. Born in France to Egyptian Turkish parents, coming to India, saying India is my true home, but I am a French by birth and early education. Why? Because she had to embody the highest of that age, which was going behind, and she had to initiate a new impulsion. Highest of that age was embodied in France. And the new impulsion, the new scene had to be India. So in our own life, we see a mix of all the different strands of human nature, of human possibilities, and all this she comes so simply and gives it to Sri Aurobindo. I came to India to meet Sri Aurobindo. When someone asked her, tell us about your life, she says, I do not want, this also there, do not ask questions about the details of the material existence of this body. They are in themselves of no interest and must not attract attention. Why? Because this is not the only body she has ever achieved. She said, since the inception of the earth, I have never left the earth. I have always been here. Whenever and wherever there was the possibility to manifest a ray of the true consciousness, of the divine consciousness, I was there. So her story, her saga starts with earth. Where does it end? It is an unending story of the descent of divine love, sacrifice of divine love in matter. Why divine love? We all have heard about bhakti, ananda, all this. What is so special that she is speaking about to hasten the advent of divine love upon earth? Has not divine love descended? Yes, it has descended in the vital of man, and we know what came out of that. It has descended in the mind of man, drawn towards God. And you know where it ends up with some kind of philosophical system. But this divine love has to descend now in matter. It has to transform matter. And she says every time an avatar comes, if you follow the Indian tradition, she is not just an avatar, but more than an avatar from the traditional point of view. Still, the idea of divine descent in humanity or in matter is, she says, every time he takes a body, it is to transform matter. Otherwise, she can act from there through countless vibhutis, countless in her past lives herself. Both Mother and Sri Aurobindo were like vibhutis. So she can act upon matter upon world, its events in various ways. But it is only when matter has to be transformed, when this fallen nature has to be redeemed, that the divine takes on wears the obscure cloak of matter, hides himself, so that matter can be transformed. So her whole story is the descent of divine love in matter, which we see toward the later part of the agenda. When someone asks, Mother, you are doing all this yoga of the cells and all these experiences, how are we to do it? Mother says, who is asking you to do it? Because it's so painful. She says, you have to just open yourself to me. I will give it to you. Who can say this? I haven't heard in the entire history of spiritual beings, people come, they show you a path. At its highest, like Krishna and Christ, they may say, I am the way and I am the path. But here the Divine Mother says, I will carry you. Whatever path you are going, I will walk with you on that path. Amazing. It doesn't matter what your belief system is, non-belief system is, just open and she will take us along our unique path towards the great consummation. What is this path? We may say it's the path of no path. It's the path that is everywhere. It's the path that is unique and yet universal. It's a cult which is beyond all limits. Who can come to her? All, doesn't matter. Your religion, your belief, your non-beliefs, your caste, creed, the lowliest of the lowest, the wickedest of the wickedest, even animals, plants, matter, stone, it could find shelter at her feet. That is the divine love she brought to earth. Who can speak about her life? It's true that her life, even if we were to speak for hours, for lives, it won't be complete. And so, because I've been asked to speak in 10 minutes something about her life, I prayed to her. Ma, you only can speak. So all that I can say is that she is a wonderful mother of numberless souls. Some lines from Savitri which most remind me of her, which I would probably read, and with that close. They are wonderful lines. All in her pointed to a nobler kind, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven. Even though she became like us, she always remained in that beatitude, in that ananda, in that love. One who could call by her will high destinies down. Someone who could tell a disciple and to all, my child, grace can completely cancel karma. Have you ever heard this? Karma, utkat karma, inexorable karma. She says, my child, grace can completely annul karma. And it's there in her stories, real life. Somebody whose karma, how she could cancel, and says all that is required. And she says, what is to be done for that? Some special puja anushthan? She says, no. Sometimes just a little call is enough. Even faith is enough. That's all. Just a little point she wants for us to hold on to her. Or rather to allow her to hold on to her, us. And that little point is contained in one single word. That's all that is required. That is Ma. So I'll close with these lines, a wonderful passage, and those who are interested can read it. Whole creation is her life and much more than that. It's on page 15 and I am just reading few lines. What do we experience when we go to her? A wide self-giving was her native act. We have heard, divine comes, he wants this, wants that. But she has come to give. A wide self-giving was her native act. And what is she going to give? Some miracles, some house, some cars. Oh, that anybody can give us. She has come to give us divine life, divine ananda, beatitude, wisdom, strength, force, peace, harmony, sweetness, and much more. The wide self-giving was a native act, a magnanimity as of sea or sky, enveloped with its greatness all that came and gave a sense as of a greatened world. Everybody who came to her, regardless, devotee, non-devotee, follower, not follower, doesn't matter. Everybody who came, they were greatened. It is different that each one felt, I am blessed. And the moment they felt, I am the only one. No, to everybody, from a little child to the prime minister and presidents of countries, everybody was blessed. As might a soul fly like a hunted bird, escaping with tired wings from a world of storms, the refuge of the lost, and a quiet reach like a remembered breast in a haven of safety and splendid soft repose, one could drink life back in streams of honey fire, recover the lost habit of happiness, a deep of compassion, a hushed sanctuary. Her inward help unbarred a gate in heaven. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in her single heart. To such a divine mother, what can we offer? Even gratitude is a it sounds a dull, insipid word. Even if we were to offer all our life, every breath, every heartbeat beat for all lives to come, it will be nothing. Because she will take it and return it enriched with divine beats. So what have we really given? We have only received. Still, since as human beings, we can only say gratitude, and even that is not required. All that we need is to say, Ma, 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 Ma.